Okay, so let's talk about confidence. We all want more of it, right? It feels like the secret sauce that just unlocks everything. But a ton of the advice out there is all about thinking your way to confidence. And let's be honest, it doesn't always work. Today, we're going to look at a totally different way to build it. A structure that's solid, that's resilient, and most importantly, that's earned. So let's just kick things off with a question I think we've all wrestled with. Why does that classic advice, fake it till you make it, just feel so flimsy? You give it a shot, you do the positive affirmations, but the minute you're in a high-pressure situation, that confidence just seems to vanish. Why does that happen?
Well, the problem is that this whole idea is built on a really flawed blueprint. We'll call it the confidence myth. It's the super popular notion that we can just decide to be confident, like flipping a light switch. But that's not how real, lasting confidence is built. Not even close. And this slide really nails the difference. The myth is all about things like affirmations and positive thinking, essentially faking it. But the reality? The reality is that true confidence is built on a solid foundation of evidence, actual skill, and taking action. It's the difference between wishing you had a strong house and, actually getting out there and laying the bricks.
Think about it. When you tell yourself, I'm a fantastic public speaker, but deep down, all your past experiences tell you you're shaky and nervous, your brain just isn't buying it. It's called cognitive dissonance. Your brain literally detects that conflict between what you're saying and what the evidence shows. And weirdly enough, that can make you feel even less confident.
All right, so if faking it is a dead end, what's the solution? Well, there's a much more powerful way to look at this. Let's frame it this way. Confidence is a shadow.
And that brings us to the competence-based model. Now, the big idea here, the huge shift, is that confidence isn't the cause of your success. It's the result. It's a byproduct. It's what naturally shows up once you have actual proof of what you can do. You don't try to build confidence first. You build competence, and the confidence just follows. We can even break it down into a simple formula. Your confidence is roughly your perceived competence, so what you believe you can do, times your accumulated evidence, the cold, hard proof that you've actually done it. Now, think about that multiplication. If either one of those numbers is 0, guess what? Your confidence is 0. You absolutely need both. And here's that shadow analogy again, because it's so perfect. Your competence, your actual skill, is a real solid object. Your confidence is just the shadow that object casts. You can't make a shadow bigger by wishing it were bigger or trying to draw it on the ground. The only way to get a bigger shadow is to build a bigger object. Now, this model also makes a really important distinction. You have your objective competence, that's your actual measurable skill level, and then you have your perceived competence. That's what you think your skill level is. Now, your confidence is driven by a perception, but that perception only becomes stable and real when it's anchored to your objective skill. Here's a great example. Picture two medical interns. They have the exact same knowledge, same grades, everything. But one has only ever read about diseases in textbooks. The other one, she's successfully diagnosed and treated a dozen real patients. Now, who's going to walk into that ER with more confidence? It's not even a question, right? It's the one with the evidence. Her belief in her skills has been proven by reality. Okay, so if competence is the object that casts the shadow of confidence, how do we actually build that object? Well, it happens through a very predictable journey, which you can think of as a kind of skill-building engine. Every single one of us goes through these 4 stages when we learn something new. At first, you're unconsciously incompetent. You're so new, you don't even know what you're bad at. Then comes phase 2, conscious incompetence. This is the painful part. It's when you realize just how much you have to learn and your confidence takes a nosedive. But listen, that dip is totally normal. As you keep practicing, you get to conscious competence. You can do the thing, but it takes all your focus. And finally, you get to unconscious competence. It's second nature. And that's where your confidence becomes high and stable because you've earned it. I like to think of this whole journey as building a bridge. The first time you try a new skill, that bridge is shaky. It can't hold much weight at all. But every time you practice, every single repetition, it's like you're adding another steel beam, another support cable. And over time, you build something that has real structural integrity, something that doesn't just crumble when a little pressure is applied.
So you've built the bridge, but is it ready for a hurricane? To have that truly deep, unshakable confidence, you have to know your skills can handle a storm. And that brings us to our next section, how competence gets forged under pressure.
See,
Competence doesn't just grow on its own in a vacuum. It gets refined through a super tight feedback loop. You take an action, you see the outcome, you get some feedback, and you make an adjustment. It's that simple. Think of a pro athlete watching game film. They're not just kicking back. They're in this loop, actively sharpening their skills.
And that feedback part is absolutely critical. Without it, our idea of how good we are gets all twisted. We either become overconfident because no one's telling us where we're messing up, or we become underconfident because we're not recognizing our own wins.
This idea comes to life when you compare two pilots. Pilot number 1 is amazing in a calm, perfect simulator. They look confident. But pilot number 2 has trained for engine failures, for terrifying weather, for every system going haywire. That second pilot has a robust confidence. It's been tested by fire, and it's been proven. It really comes down to a simple, powerful truth. You don't know how strong a piece of steel is by just looking at it, right? You have to test it. Apply pressure. Well, it's the exact same with your skills. You don't know how strong your competence really is until it's been challenged. That's what turns a skill into rock-solid confidence. So, what's the big payoff for doing all this hard work? What do you actually get from building confidence from the ground up the right way? You get something way more valuable than that flimsy, faked version. You get the stability advantage.
You see, this kind of earned confidence, it changes everything. When someone criticizes you, it's not a personal attack. It's just data for your feedback loop. When you have a bad day and fail at something, it's just an outlier, not proof that you're a fraud. And best of all, you don't need other people to constantly tell you you're doing great, because you have a whole library of your own successes to draw on.
Maybe the absolute best way to wrap this all up is with one last analogy. Think of your competence, all your skills and experiences, as money in the bank. It's your capital. Every single time you practice, you're making a deposit. And your confidence? That's just the interest that your capital naturally earns over time. You can't get the interest without first investing the capital.
So here's the bottom line. Real sustainable confidence. It's not some fluffy psychological decoration that you stick on your personality. It is the direct, natural, and undeniable result of developing actual capability. It has to be earned.
And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. Instead of waking up and asking, how can I feel more confident today? Maybe the better question, the more powerful question, is this: what skill, what piece of competence capital are you going to invest in today? Because that's the only investment that's guaranteed to pay you back with genuine, earned confidence.